How you doing there? Welcome back to Babble on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Zayin, Daf 97. Woo! We're getting close. Of Masechta Menachos, friends. Daf 97 is something else. Sheesh. Okay, the first section is the snifin and kanim. The snifin and kanim. We are continuing talking about, at least the beginning, the shulchan and the different parts of the shulchan. Specifically those kind of panels and little reed thingies. And then, oh boy, figuring out the tefachs of the Mizbeach. Sheesh, who's ready for some math? There's going to be lots of math, lots of slides. What's interesting about these slides, how many slides are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 slides that we're going to be looking at. They are all copied and pasted from Masechta Zvachim. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? I didn't have to create, I had to put a lot of work, probably put about an hour or two of work into it. But in principle, I literally copied and pasted them from Masechta Zvachim. I updated them, the styles have also changed since then, and I had to tweak them, different numbers and things. But like, in principle, I literally pressed Control-C, Control-V from Masechta Zvachim, which saved a lot of time. Okay, as it is, it took some time, but I was able to just work with slides that I already had, which was pretty darn awesome. Anyways, friends, so there's going to be a lot of numbers. That's the bulk of this daf, is like doing math. So, friends, get your math hats on, and let's learn Daf Zayin of Masechta Menachos. Friends, we begin on Daf Zayin, Amid Aleph of Masechta Menachos, about 40% of the way into the daf. At the 2 dots where it says, Arba snifin shel zav ayusham v'chule, that there were these 4 kind of panels there. I don't have a slide for the shulchan right now. We've had plenty of those in the last few days. Of course, there were the 2 stacks of breads, and each one, assuming that they were like a box, that they were square. So there were kind of these panels on either side that would keep the breads nice and snug. How do we know that there were these panels and these reeds in between the breads? Well, Rav Katina says that it says in the Chumash, that the pasuk in Parshas Truma, is this not? Yeah, I think it's from Parshas Truma. This pasuk from Parshas Truma says that the kairos. Okay, let's go weiter. Where are we? Okay, we're coming to fun. Kairos of elu defusin. So the kairos are the molds, right? We talked about the molds for the breads. That's that. Kapos of elu bazichin. The kapos are the bazichin for the frankincense. Ksos of elu snifin. The ksos are the snifin, those panels. Umenakios of elu kanim. Those are those reeds that would be in between the breads. Asher yusach. But hey, that the reeds create a kind of a schach of sorts for the breads. They are above the breads. They are a covering of sorts for the breads. Moshe Rabbe Asakasha lo sider kanim velo what lo sidur akanim velo netilas and dochas as Shabbos. Rabbe points out that our Mishnah had ruled that setting up the reeds and taking them away is not docha Shabbos. So of course, every Shabbos, the lechem apanim, the showbreads, were swapped out. Now, of course, on the shulchan with the showbreads, in between the showbreads were these reeds. So if you're swapping out the showbreads, you gotta take care of the reeds as well, right? So you're gonna have to take them off and take them off of the other showbreads. Then when the new showbreads come on, you're gonna have to put them in between. However, the Mishnah said, "Lo sidur akanim v'lo netilasan," taking the reeds down from the shulchan when removing the previous week's breads and putting them back on the shulchan once the new breads have been put there, have been placed on the shulchan, are not docha Shabbos. We're going to talk about what you do with them shortly. If it enters your mind, oraisa. However, if it's like Rav, who's there? If it's like Rav Katina said, that all these things are pshat and chumash. If all these things, Pashat the pasuk says that there are these reeds, well then amai ain't dochas Shabbos. If it's a mitzvah d'oraisa, it should be dochas Shabbos, no? So Hadar Amarava Lav Milsu Da'ami Rava says no, actually forget it. I said anything. Ditnam, because we learned in our Mishnah also. Kalam Rabbi Kiva says Kol Malacha she'efshir la la'asos me'erev Shabbos, that any malacha that could be done from Erev Shabbos, even though it's a mitzvah d'oraisa, if it could have been done from Erev Shabbos, you got to do it Erev Shabbos. Eino docha esa Shabbos v'aninami efshir dochi Shabbos alayu. And therefore, these also, when it comes to the reeds, you don't need to be doche Shabbos, because after all, time of Mai, what's the whole point of the reeds? Dulo the apish lechem. The whole point of the reeds is to create, where you put them in between the breads, to create a little bit of ventilation in between the breads so nothing should get moldy. That's the whole purpose of them. And therefore, b'chiyah shiura lo mi apish. And that small amount of time, they won't become moldy. Let's go shtickle weiter, and then we'll pull everything together. Ketzan is willing to buy a Ketzad huo. So what does he do? Nichnas me'erev Shabbos. So what you do is erev Shabbos. Somebody goes into the heichel, v'shamton umanichin the orkel shel shulchan, and you remove. So before Shabbos, you remove the reeds, and you put them to the length of the shulchan. What does it mean? So Tosfos Taka says it means that you put them on the floor, underneath the shulchan, right? Because again, we're saying that you're not going to be doing this on Shabbos. On Shabbos, you're not going to be removing the reeds. So before Shabbos, you go into the heichel. Somebody goes into the heichel, removes the reeds before Shabbos, and now these are golden reeds, right? So you're not going to throw them in the garbage; they're not disposable. So you put them underneath the shulchan, and you leave them there for now. Umotze Shabbos nichnas, and then on Shabbos the breads are swapped, and then on Motze Shabbos a kohen goes into the eichel magbia rosha shel chala, and one at a time. So the bottom chala, as we're going to see in a second, he doesn't touch; he leaves there. He doesn't do anything, but in between the first and second, umachnis kana tachtea, he sticks in three reeds. V'chozor magbia rosha shel chala, and then he picks up the third chala right in between the second and third chala, umachnis kana tachtea, and puts reeds in between them. Arba chalas tzricha shlosha kanim. 3 breads require 3 reeds each, right? So between 1 and 2, between 2 and 3, between 3 and 4, and between 4 and 5, there are 3 reeds providing ventilation. Kanim elyona eina tzricha. But between the top 2, 5 and 6, you don't need elashnaim. All you need is 2. You don't need 3. Lefishein alel masoi, because there isn't a very heavy burden, right? If you're like all the way at the bottom, or even closer to the bottom, so okay, you need 3 reeds in order to make sure that there's enough ventilation and nothing's getting kind of squished and moldy. But if between kind of the top one and the one before that, 2 reeds is sufficient. And the very bottom loaf that's resting on the table itself, on the shulchan itself, doesn't require any reeds beneath it. Because it is on the shulchan itself. I think Rashi says that it is cooler there. What does it say? The karir v'lo mi'apish. It's cooler on the table itself. No. So what did we just say before we move on to a humongous math problem? Not a difficult math problem per se, but a long one. I'm going to drink some tea. So we had said from a pasuk that, what was it? Either kisosav with the snifin, and the menachiosav with the kanim. So Rav had asked the question that if these reeds are midoraisa, so then why not do it on Shabbos? So he says, well, I'll tell you why you can't do it on Shabbos, because as Rabbi Kiva says, that if you could do it before Shabbos, then you need to do it before Shabbos. And as we described in the Brisa, that's exactly what they do. They would do it before Shabbos, because after all, what's the whole point of the reeds? The whole point of the reeds is to make sure that the breads don't get moldy. Now, it's okay if you remove the reeds on Friday before Shabbos, between Friday before Shabbos and the Shabbos afternoon, when they swap, I believe it was Shabbos afternoon, when they swap out the breads, nothing's getting moldy during that time. And similarly, from the time that they swap out the breads until Motzai Shabbos, when they'll put the reeds back, also nothing's getting moldy. So therefore, if the whole point is just to prevent it from getting moldy, that doesn't need to be done on Shabbos. You can remove the reeds before Shabbos and put them back after Shabbos, and everything will be a-okay. And since that is the case, Rava concludes that you got to do it that way. Remove them before Shabbos, put them back after Shabbos, and that way, that way you'll do everything you need to do, and you don't need to be Doche Shabbos for that. And we're off. The math section. Tananosim, we learned in a Mishnah in Masechta Kalim. Reb Meir Omer, we referenced this yesterday. Kol amis shayu b'mikdash benonios chutz mimizbach hazov v'akeren v'asovev v'ayisod. Reb Yehuda Omer amas binyan shisha tefachim v'shel kalim chamisha. Okay. As we mentioned yesterday, there are Mishnayos in Masechta Kalim that discuss the size of a amma. The standard amma was 6 tefachim. There were exceptional cases where a 5 tefach amma was used. Should I roll up my sleeves more? I'm debating. I don't know. I can't remember how much I rolled them up earlier. I might need to do another roll. Okay. So the standard amma was a 6 tefach amma. There were exceptional cases where there was 5 tefach amma. So now, according to Reb Meir, the exceptional cases for the 5 tefach ammas were limited to the Mizbeach Hazav. The Mizbeach Hazav was 1 amma by 1 amma. That was a 5 tefach amma. And the other one are all related to the Mizbeach Ha'ola, to the Mizbeach HaChitzon. And this is going to be our isuk. This is what we're going to be busy with for the rest of the daf, understanding exactly what this means. But the 5 tefach amma is related to the Mizbeach HaChitzon, to the Yesod, to the Sovev, and to the Kronos, to the horns. We're going to do a little, if you don't remember what's what, your Mizbeach anatomy. Since Masechta Zvachim, we will do a refresher. I've got all the slides and everything. We will do a little refresher. Al Kopanim, so Reb Meir says that the scenarios where there's a 5 tefach amma are the Mizbeach Hazav, the Yesod, the Sovev, and the Kronos of the Mizbeach HaChitzon. Reb Yehuda says that the place where there are the 5 tefach zahavs, verses 6, is as follows. That anything related to building in the Beis HaMikdash, related to walls or, building rooms and stuff, whatever needs to be built, that would be a standard 6 tefach amma. Standard 6 tefach amma. Anything related to kalim, for example, we saw in the Mishnah yesterday, the Shulchan, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is with a 5 tefach amma. Anything kalim, all kalim in the Beis HaMikdash would use the 5 tefach ammas. Okay, so let's read that again inside. Let's read that again inside. Tanan, also, we learned in the Mishnah in kalim. Reb Meir says, Reb Meir called amis sha'ayu b'mikdash, all like the standard default amma in the Beis HaMikdash. Beinonis, we are talking about a amma beinonis. An amma beinonis is a 6 tefach amma. A small one would be a 5 tefach amma, and then there's also these kind of very, very ever so slightly larger than 6 tefach ammas. Those would be the larger ones. But these are the middle ones. The standard tefach in the Beis HaMikdash was the beinonis, the 6 tefach amma. Chutz mimizbach hazav, 4 exceptions. The mizbach hazav, v'akeren, the horns of the Mizbeach HaChitzon, v'asovev of the Mizbeach HaChitzon, v'as Yesod, and the Yesod of the Mizbeach HaChitzon. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, okay, that's Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda, Amas binyan shisha tefachim, that in the Beis HaMikdash, and whenever they needed an amma related to building, they would use a 6 tefach amma. Mishal kalim, and any amma related to vessels, chamisha, would be a 5 tefach amma. Rabbi Yechon says, Rabbi Yechon v'shnei mikra echad darshu, and Reb Meir and Rabbi Yehuda learn it out from the same pasuk. And that pasuk is pasuk from Yechezkel, of course. Ve'ele midos hamizbeach be'amos. These were the measurements of the altar in amas. Amma. The amma is, drum roll please, amma v'tofach. The amma of the Mizbeach was not just a regular amma, an amma v'tofach, a 5 tefach amma plus another amma. A 6 tefach amma. A 6 tefach, right? Amma v'tofach. A 5 tefach amma plus another tefach, a 6 tefach amma. Now, the chek ha'ama, however, when it came to the yisod, as we're going to see, ha'ama. There, it's not an amma v'tofach, it's an amma. It's a 5 tefach amma. The amma rochav and the sovev as well was a 5 tefach amma. The gvula el sfasa saviv zeres ha'echad. And sheesh. Vigvula el svasa saviv zeres ha'echad. So what that means, zeres is a half an amma. I didn't look that up actually, but I think it is a half an amma. And contextually, it's half an amma. So a zeres is half an amma. So now, basically, if you have a square that's 1 amma by 1 amma, and you have a point smack in the middle of that square, so then there will basically be half an amma in each direction to get to each wall. So what it's saying is, and to go to its boundaries in any direction is half an amma. That's a reference to the keren. Okay, basically the keren was also a 5 tefach amma. V'gav mizbeach. That's a reference to the Mizbach Hazav. Cheko Amma ze Yisod, Amma Rochav ze Soviv, Vegvula El Sfasa Soviv Zeres Echad Elu Kronos, ze Gav Mizbeach ze Mizbach Hazav. Okay, fine. So the pasuk in Yechezkel is saying that there was a 5 tefach Amma for the Mizbach Hazav, and for the Yisod, the Soviv, and the Kronos of the Mizbeach Achitzon. Now, Reb Meir Sofer says, Reb Meir, Zeu be'ama bas chamisha. So these things listed in the pasuk, Mizbach Hazav, Yisod, Sovev, Kronos, are 5 tefach amas, are kol amos kalim, but all other amas, when it comes to vessels, ba'ama bas sheish, are 6 tefach amas. These are the exceptions. The pasuk told you what the 5 tefach amas are. I hope I didn't say these are 6 tefach. These are 5 tefach amas. The pasuk told you what the 5 tefach amas are. Everything else, 6 tefach amas. Reb Yehuda Savar, Reb Yehuda holds, Kazeh Yehu Kol Amos Kalim. And Reb Yehuda says that like this is all of the, I think the point is just like the, I think it was just like, anyways, I think it's just like the Mizbach Hazav is a kli, and it's a 1 tefach amma, is a 5 tefach amma. So all of the vessels, all of the kalim are 5 tefach ammas. And now begins the mission of figuring out what they want from us. What about, when it comes to specifically to Mizbach Ha'olah, we said that the Yisod is a 5 tefach amma. The Soviv, 5 tefach amma. The Kronos are 5 tefach amma. The rest of the Mizbeach Achitzon is not. What about the Yisod? What about the Soviv? What about the Kronos are 5 tefachim? The height, the in, the out. So maybe this is a good opportunity right now for a little refresher on the Mizbeach Achitzon, the different parts of it. So here is a slide that I took from Masechta Zvachim. And let's see, what can I tell you about this slide? The white arrows, I have 2 white arrows, one pointing to the right, one pointing down. That is pointing to the Yesod of the Mizbeach Achitzon. It has a height of 1 amma, and as the down pointing arrow points to, it also goes in by an amma. And the blue arrows above that, the blue arrows, also we got 1 arrow pointing to the right and 1 arrow pointing down. They're pointing to the Sovev. Okay. And so basically, so it goes up another 5. I'm going to show you another slide, I think, actually, in a minute. So it goes up another, so from the Yisod, so the Yisod has a height of 1 amma, and then goes in an amma. The Mizbeach then goes up another 5 ammas, and that is the sovev. And then it goes in another amma. And on the sovev you can stand. You could stand on the sovev. And then it goes up another 3 ammas. Right, so already we have 1 and 5 is 6. It goes up another 3 ammas. And now you're at the top of the Mizbeach. So that's 9 ammas. And the horns of the Mizbeach have a height of another amma. So the height of the Mizbeach is 10 ammas. I'm going to show you one more slide. This is another kind of view of the outer Mizbeach. This actually I took from the kanim. Remember we were in kanim with all those birds and all those different Mizbeachs and what goes above the one is a ola, one is a chatas, above the chutas sikra, below the chutas sikra. Anyways, so I didn't have to make a whole new Mizbeach. I designed it a little differently. But anyways, so again, you see here, the bottom level is the Yesod. It has a height of 1 and it has a width of 32. Okay? And then it goes up in Amma and then you get to the Sovev. The Sovev has a height of 5, but it goes in Amma on each side. So and now it has a width no longer of 32, but of 30. And then, right, so the Yesod is 1 Amma. The Sovev is another 5 ammas, so you're 6 ammas off the ground. And then it goes up 3 ammas, and also in another amma on both sides. So the next section is therefore 28 ammas. So we started at 32, then 30, now 28. And then the horns at the top of the Mizbeach have a height of another amma. And in between the horns goes in another amma, because they're basically an amma cube, and that's 26 ammas between the horns. Okay, a little bit of a catch-up of the Mizbeach and talk about, get our feet wet with some of these numbers. Drinking a little tea. I've been I've been in tea mode I'm trying to kick this cough once and for all. It's been with me for a while. Okay, so here we go. Kosa Gadati, it enters your mind. Mi Yesod. So remember, the pasuk is talking about a 5 tefach amma for the Yesod, for the Sovev, and for the Kronos. What does that mean? So Kosa Gadati, it enters our mind initially to say, Mi Yesod ve'ad Sovev be'ama bas hey bigova. Umay chek ha'ama. What's the chek? Umay chek ha'ama ve'ama rochav. Okay, I got it. Umay chek. Oh yeah, v'chek ha'ama. Right, ve'ama rochav. Okay, fine. So again, yeah, it's a. Right. Anyways, it's hard. Right. Okay. Figure it out what it say. Sometimes the phrases are a little funny. Anyways, I'm reading that again. Bigova. So it enters. So the Yesod, as we see in this slide, the Yesod is 1 amma tall. The Sovev, the blue section, is another 5 ammas. So now, tall. So from the ground until the top of the Sovev, the ledge where the coin could stand on, so that is 6 ammas off the ground. Now, we want to say, so the pasuk says that the Yesod and the Sovev were 5 tefach ammas. So that means that the first 6 ammas of the Mizbeach as an amma, as a height of 10 ammas, right? 1 plus 5 plus 3 plus 1, right? 1 and 5 is 6, another 3 is 9, another 1 is 10. So the Mizbeach has a height of 10. And we're saying that from the ground, from the floor, until the top of the Sovev, which is 6 ammas, those are 5 tefach ammas. So that means that would be 30 tefachim off the ground. So now, Kosa, again, for the millionth time, Kosa Gadatik enters your mind, Yesod, from the Yesod, Ve'ad Sovev, until the top of the Sovev, Be'ama Bas Hey, we're talking about a 5 tefach amma. Begov at its height. Umay, and when the pasuk says Chei Ka'ama Ve'ama Rochav, what does that mean in the pasuk? Hachi Ka'amai. This is what the pasuk is saying. Me Chei Ka'ama, from the Yesod, Ve'ad Rochav Be'ama, and until the top of the Sovev, Bas Chamisha Gova, Bas Chamisha period. We are talking about 5 tefach ammas. Okay, so 6 ammas, 5 tefachim in each. That is a 30 tefach amma. Now, that is a 30. That's 30 tefachim off the ground to the top of the Sovev with that calculation. Now, Gova Mizbeach kamahave. What is the height of the Mizbeach in that case, right? So if we're saying that the first 6 amas of the Mizbeach, but the Mizbeach is 10 amas tall. The first 6 of them are 5 tefach amas. And then the final 4 of them are 6 tefach amas. So 6 times 5 is 30. 4 times 6 is 24. 30 and 24 is 54. So the total height of this Mizbeach, that we're talking about, would be 54 tefachim. So Gova Mizbeach kamahave, Eser amas. The Gant's height, the whole height of the entire height of the Mizbeach is 10 amas. Shis b'nei chamsha chamsha. The first 6 amas are 5 tefach amas. The arbae, and then the remaining 4 amas, b'nei shisa shisa, are 6 tefach amas. So Mizbeach kamahave chamshim v'arba. So that means that this Mizbeach therefore would have a total height of 54. 30 and 24 is 54. Now, Palge de Mizbeach kamehave. What would be the halfway mark then? 54 divided by 2 is 27. Esrim v'shiva. Okay, so that means that the halfway mark of the Mizbeach would be 27. So the entire height of the Mizbeach is 54 tefachim, and the halfway mark would be 27 tefachim. Mikronis, from the top of the Mizbeach, from the very top of the Mizbeach, ve'ad sovev, until the sovev, kamahave, how many tefachim is that? Well, we said up until the top of the sovev were the 5 tefach amas. From the top of the sovev until the top of the Mizbeach were the 6 tefach amas, and there were 4 of these amas. So 4 times 6 is 24. So Esem Barba. So from the very top of the Mizbeach until the Sovev is 24 Tfachim. So Kama Batzir, the Falg of the Mizbeach. So then, if we're saying that the halfway mark of the Mizbeach is 27, and from the top of the Mizbeach until where the coin could stand on the Sovev is 24 Tfachim. And remember, the halfway mark is 27, so what's 27 minus 24? So Kama Batzir the Falge. So how much more is it to get to the halfway mark? The Mizbeach Tlasa. 3 Tfachim. So based on these numbers, the Sovev is 3 Tfachim away from the halfway mark of the Mizbeach. Friends, what's at the halfway mark of the Mizbeach? Well, if you look at our Mizbeach over here, a red line is there at the halfway mark. V'tznam, we learn in a Mishnah, Masechta Midos, Chut shel Sikra Chagro be'emtza, that there is a red line at the halfway mark of the Mizbeach, Kidei lahavdil bedam elyonim bedam tachtonim, as a marker between the upper bloods and the lower bloods, right? Most korbanos, their blood is below the chut hasikra. Some korbanos, like the korban chatas and the olas ha'of, are above the chut hasikra, and there was a red line that would divide between the upper and lower halves of the Mizbeach. Elohad Tanya, we learn in a brisa, gabe olas ha'of, by the olas ha'of, haya ola ba'kevish ufana l'sovev, he would walk up the kevish and turn onto the sovev, uvalu l'kein domas mizachis, and come to the southeastern corner of the Mizbeach, umolik ezrosha, mimol orpa, umavdil, and he would decapitate the bird with his fingernail, otherwise called malika, umotzi ezdama al kira Mizbeach, and press the blood against the wall of the Mizbeach. And now, before we get to the punchline and the kicker, let's look at a slide. So, did I just feel something? I don't know, maybe. Anyways, so what do we see in this slide? What we see is a kain where the white arrow is pointing to a kain, right? So it says Allah ba'kevesh, right? There's the ramp. You see the big ramp. Now, next to the ramp, to the right of the ramp is a smaller ramp that goes up to where he's standing. That's the sovev. He's standing on the sovev. So it says Allah ba'kevesh. He goes up the smaller ramp, ufana l'sovev, and turns right onto the sovev. And now he's standing b'keren ma'aravis dromis mizrachis, right? He's in the southeastern corner, and that is where the olas ha'of would be offered. Now, if you look at this guy, so he's standing in the corner there. So now he's going to have to take, by the olas off, you take the bird, and the decapitated bird, and you press it against the wall in order to squeeze out its blood. Now, what he can do is he can kneel down. He can kneel down, and he can do this against the Mizbeach, right below where he's standing. He can kneel down. He just has to make sure that it's above the Chut HaSikra. And says so I'm going to read that again. Right, as we saw, he would go up the ramp in front of the Soviv, he would turn right onto the Soviv, and he would get to the southeastern corner. And he would, using his fingernail, he would sever the neck of the bird and decapitate it. And he would squeeze and press the blood against the wall of the Mizbeach. And if he kneeled down and pressed the bird against the wall of the Mizbeach below where he was standing, afilu ama achas, even if he reached down a full ama, kishera, it is nonetheless kosher. But chevra, a full ama is at least 5 tefachim. And we had said that based on our calculations, the total height of the Mizbeach was 54 tefachim. The Chut HaSikra was at the 27 tefach mark. From the very top of the Mizbeach to where he was standing on the Soviv was 24 tefachim. There was a 3 tefach distance, a difference of 3 tefachim, a distance of 3 tefachim from where his feet were, where he was standing, to where the Chut HaSikra was. Now here we're saying in the Brisa that he could even reach down as far as a full amma. But if he reached down a full amma, he would be overshooting the Chut HaSikra by at least 2 tefachim, and that means that the blood would be below the Chut HaSikra, and olas ha'of needs to be above the Chut HaSikra. So akayoy ve'elyona lemata mishnei tefachim, it would be a problem because if he goes down, right? If he squeezes the blood against the wall of the Mizbeach, in amma below where he's standing, he's going to overshoot the Chut HaSikra by at least 2 tefachim, and he'll be below the Chut HaSikra, and that would be a problem for in olas ha'of. So again, we're trying to figure out when the pasuk says a 5 tefach amma for the yesod, for the sovev, for the kronos, what exactly we're talking about. We just attempted to say that it could be talking about the height of the sovev, of the yesod and the sovev, but we ran into trouble. Okay, so Ella rather Chek ha'ama knisa ama rochav. Knisa ama rochav knisa. Okay, so rather we're not talking about the height of the yesod and the height of the sovev. Rather, we're talking about where they go in to the mizbeach. So let's go back to this slide, right? So we see there's the yesod all the way at the bottom. It goes up in amma, and then it goes in amma. Then it goes up. The soviv goes up 5 more ammas and in another amma. So we're talking about that amma that it goes in, right? Also the horn at the top of the mizbeach, right? It has a width of an amma. So these ammas that we're talking about, when you go up an amma from the yesod and go in an amma, go up 5 more ammas and in an amma, go up to the keren, up to the horn, and the horn has a width of an amma. All those ammas we want to suggest are 5 tefach ammas. So again, Ella Cheka Amma, when we talk about the Yesod, Knisa, we're talking about going in by an Amma. Amma Rochav, when we talk about the Sovev, Knisa, once again, we're talking about when we move in an Amma at the top of the Sovev, where the coin stands on, the ledge. Gvula Asvasa Sovev, Knisa, and when we're talking about the horn at the top of the Mizbeach also, we're talking about an amma, not the height of the horn, but rather the length and width of the horn. Mizbeach kamahave. So now we want to suggest, well, in terms of the question that we asked earlier about the Chut HaSikra and the kohen who's with the olaf sa'of and kneeling down and pressing the bird against the Mizbeach, that works out now. Right, so Mizbeach kamahava. So now, since we're not messing with the height of the Mizbeach at all, which means that all 10 amas of the height of the Mizbeach are 6 tefach amas. So therefore the height of the Mizbeach is 60 amas. So shisin, 60 amas. Palge, the Mizbeach kamave. So now what's the halfway mark? Tlusin, 30. That means that the chut hasikra is at the 30 mark. Mikronos v'adsovev kamave. And from the very top of the Mizbeach till where the kohen is standing at the sovev, so that's 4 amas, which are 6 tefachim each, so that's 24 tefachim, right? 4 amas that are each 6 tefachim each, so that's 24 tefachim. So from the top of the Mizbeach to where the kohen is standing on the sovev is 24 tefachim, and we're saying that the halfway mark, the chut hasikra, is at the 30 tefach mark, so there are 6 tefachim between where he's standing and the chut hasikra. There is a full amma where he can kneel down and press the bird against the walls of the Mizbeach and still be above the chut hasikra. Havichav dalit, so he's 24, the sovev is 24 tefachim away from the top of the Mizbeach. Batzir lefalge the Mizbeach shisha, and there is a difference of 6 tefachim between where he's standing and the chut hasikra v'tanan. And we learned in that Brisa earlier, Imasa Lamata Miraglov, that if he presses the bird below his feet, if he kneels down and presses the bird against the wall of the Mizbeach below his feet, Afilu Ama Achas, even if he reaches down a full Ama, Kishera, it is nonetheless Kshera. So that seems to be working out now. However, even though that seems to be working out now, we have other issues. But Mayu Kimtos, what are we saying? Biknisa. So we're saying that basically when you go up an amma and in an amma, you're going in a 5 tefach amma. When you go up 6 ammas and then in an amma, you're going in another 5 tefach amma. And then you go up to the horns of the Mizbeach and they have a length and width of 5 tefachim. That's going to be trouble. Can you really say that that's what it's talking about? 5 tefach ammas when we go in, when we step in? But we learn in a Mishnah, also in Midas, Mizbeach oya 32 al 32, as we see over here in this slide, that the Yesod, right, the widest section of the Mizbeach is 32 amas, by 32 amas, right? This is a side view, but if we had a bird's eye view, it would be square, although, of course, the Yesod doesn't surround the entire Mizbeach, but Beseder, the sides that it does surround are 32 by 32. Okay, so the maximum width of the Mizbeach is 32 by 32 amas. Ola amma, as you see in the slide, you go up an amma, v'kanes amma, and you go in an amma. And now what? So there Yesod, this is the Yesod, nimtza shloshim al shloshim. So now, as you see in the slide, since you're going in an amma on either side, so you start with 32, down to 31 on the left side, and then down to 30 when you take into account the right side as well. Basically, you go in and amma on the left, in and amma on the right, you're down from 32 to 30. The problem is, what's the problem? The problem is that if you're going in only a 5 tefach amma, you're not going in a full 6 tefach amma. So really, it's not 30 amas now, right? The Yesod is 32 amas. Now you go up an amma and in an amma, but we're saying it's not a full amma, it's just 5. So it means that you only went 5 out of 6 tefachim on the left, leaving over a tefach, and you also only went in 5 out of 6 tefachim on the right, leaving a tefach. So really, the sovev is not 30 amas wide, it's really 30 amas and 2 tefachim. So really, shloshim v'shnei tefachim ave. It's really not 30 amas anymore. It's 30 amas and 2 tefachim. Visu, and more so, olo chamish, now you go up, and you do this again. You go up 5 amas, and you get to the sovev. V'kanas amma, and there, the Mizbeach once again shrinks by an amma on either side. We go in an amma. Zeu sovev, this is the sovev. Nimtza esim v'shmona al esim v'shmona. And the Mishnah says that the sovev is 28 by 28. right? Because we started at 32, went up an amma and in an amma on both sides. So we go from 32 to 30. We go up 5 ammas, in another amma on both sides. We're down to from 30 to 28. The thing is, once again, we didn't go in a full 6 tefach amma, only 5 tefachim in. So we had 2 tefachim remaining from the yesod. And now, once again, we have another 2 tefachim because we only went in 5 tefachim and not 6 tefachim on the sovev. So, once again, 28 ammas is not really 28 ammas. At this point, it's 28 ammas and 4 tefachim. Esem v'shmona v'arba tefachim ave. It's really 28 and 4 tefachim. V'chi tema came to lavi amma lo chashiv lei. And if you can say, yeah, but still, I mean, so long it isn't a full amma, it's not that interesting. And it's not that important. We're not going to say 28 and 4 tefachim. It's 28, it's enough. What do we call it? It's an absolute number, I think is the phrase. We're using absolute numbers, 28, not 28 and 4 tefachim. Come back to me when it's 6 tefachim, when it's actually 29. So the problem is, we'll get there. Right now we're going to get there. Makom kronis, amma mizeh v'amma mizeh. That then you get to the top of the Mizbeach, and you get to the kronis, to the horns, and the horns are each an amma. Right? The length and width of the horn is an amma. Now if you look at the diagram, at the slide, so the space in between the horns is 26, right? Because the sovev was 28. We went up to the kronos. The kronos each have a length and width. They're cubes. They have a length and width of an amma, which means that the space between the horns, you have to subtract an amma on both sides. An amma from this horn because of this horn, and an amma because of that horn. So now we're down to 26. So nimsa esem v'sheish al esem v'sheish. So now we're talking about 26. But at this point, remember there was a remainder of 2 tefachim from the yesod, which were added to and then there was another 2 tefachim from the sovev that were added to the 2 tefachim from the yesod. And now, because we're talking about the kronos are only 5 tefach ammas, we have another 2 tefachim. 2 and 2 and 2 is 6. That's a full amma at this point. 26 is really 27. Esrim v'sheva havu. So it's really, at this point, it's not 26 between the horns, it's 26 plus 6 tefachim. 6 tefachim is a full amma. It's really 27 ammas. Lo duck. The Gemara says, all right, whatever, it wasn't really paying attention to the math so much. It stuck to kind of the basics and said 26 wasn't really carrying over all the remainders. Okay, but what about this? Makum hiluch ragle kohanim. Amma mizeh v'amma mizeh. Nimtza esem v'arba al esem v'arba. Makum amayrocha. That here's this slide. This slide is a bird's eye view of the Mizbeach. I also took this from Masechtas Zvachim. Again, I had to make a few tweaks, but this slide came from Masechtas Zvachim. That is a bird's eye. All of the slides came from Masechtas Zvachim. This is a bird's eye view of the Mizbeach. And drink a little more tea. So if you see at the top, so there's the 4 corners, right? So if you look at like the top there, right? Remember, there's a bird's eye view of the Mizbeach. So the whole top there is, including the corners, is 28, right? In between the corners is 26. Now, if you go the dark green area, that is where the Kohanim could walk around the Ma'aracha, right? The whole gold square in the middle is the Ma'aracha. So now, it basically, the whole square, the whole large square, including the kronos, is 20, right? 28 by 28. And now, the area where the Kohanim walk goes in an amma on each side, so that's 26 by 26. So now, in more, where the Ma'aracha is, that would be 24 by 24. But the fact of the matter is, it's really 25 by 25, right? Because again, we have this extra cumulatively from going in the 2 tefachim from the yesod and the 2 tefachim from the sovev and the 2 tefachim from the kronos added up to a full tefach. So we said in between the horns isn't really 26, it's really 27. And also, therefore, when we subtract 2 for the ma'aracha, right, because basically the dark green area is, right, the outer area was, including the horns, is 28 by 28, which really, okay, it's 28 by 28, but the area, the dark green area should really be 29 by 29, because at this point there's all the extra tefachim. So the dark green area is really 29 by 29, and the golden area is 2 amas less than that, so it's really, wait, what? No, not 29 by 29. The green area is 27 by 27, I'm sorry. Right, wait, am I messing up the, 1 second. The outermost area, including the horns, technically, right, according to the Mishnah, is 28 by 28. The green area would be 2 amas less than that, 26 by 26. And then the gold area would be 24 by 24. But the fact of the matter is, because of all the extra tefachim, it really should be 25 by 25. So on the one hand, we said that the area between the horns is 26 by 26, but really is 26, but it should really be 27. And then the golden area in the middle, we're saying, is 24 by 24. It should really be 25 by 25. Where am I? Fine. Okay. It should be 25, not 24. Saying, okay, we're also not being makbid over here. Just like in the area between the horns should have been 27, but we said 26. Or also it should be 25, but we said 24. Okay. But vaksiv, but we have a pasuk. Kilu. Even if we want to say that for whatever reason in the Mishnah we weren't being exact, but the pasuk. What about the pasuk? Vaksiv, ve'aril shtei mesrei orech b'shtei mesrei rochav ravua, that the pyre with the ma'aracha of the Mizbeach was 12. What is it? Shtei mesrei orech b'shtei mesrei rochav was 12 by 12. Ravua square. Yachol she'eno elo shtei mesrei. Is it possible that the ma'aracha was only 12 by 12? When it says al arba rivav for the 4 quadrants, no, each quadrant was 12 by 12, but there were 4 quadrants, which basically means that it was a total of 24 by 24. That he's measuring from the middle, shtem esrei amel charuach, that 12 amas to each direction, and therefore, if it's basically from the middle, 12 to each direction, we're talking about a ma'aracha that is 24 by 24. So even if we want to say that it should be 25, but we were not being specific, the pasuk is being specific, and the pasuk is saying 24 by 24. So we're running into trouble here, friends. We're running into trouble. On the one hand, right, first we tried to say that it's talking about the yesod and the sovev, and the height of the mizbeach. We ran into trouble there with the olas ha'of. Now we want to say that it's talking about going in an amma, that those were 5 tefach ammas, but then they would add up and mess with the numbers by the time we get to the top of the mizbeach. That can't be either. And if you're going to suggest shisminayu meikara be'amabas chamisha maisilu, how about this? We simply take into account that 6 of the amas of the width are 5 tefach amas. So kilu, when we say that the mizbeach is 32 amas, they aren't 32 6 tefach amas, they are 26 6 tefach amas. Because after all, when you go up from the sovev and in one amma, and when you go up from the sovev and in an amma, and then you go up to the kronos and you go in an amma, those are all 5 tefach amas. So when we say, right, so basically you go in on both sides, that's an amma on each side, and then again an amma on each side, and again an amma on each side, that's a total of 6 ammas. Those are 5 tefach amas. So maybe just milichatchil, so there are no remainders. It's not like 32 ammas, they're all 6 tefach ammas, and now you're going up 1 and only in 5, and now there's a remainder of a tefach. No, maybe we took into account that 6 of the ammas are 5 tefach ammas, and there's no remainders at all. Nothing's left, nothing's extra. Everything's accounted for. Right? So that 6 of the ammas are 5 tefach ammas. Imkain rabach lo azara. But if that's the case, then we run into trouble with the calculations of the azara. Here is a slide, which I also took from Masechta Zvachim. I had spent in Masechtas Zvachim, I had spent a really long time making the heichal to scale. For some reason why I needed to make the heichal, I also made the Mizbeach to scale. So I have all of these slides where I already put in the work to like make everything, did all the math and everything's right. The Mizbeach's right, the heichal's right. So I only had to do a little bit more math now. I realized that 187 divided by 11 is 17. So I divided this whole area into 17 equal spaces so that I could space out, because there's a few 11 amma spaces and some 22 amma spaces. And anyways, but yeah, most of the stuff was already there from Masechtas Zvachim. So now, Tetznam, we learned in A. So where are we? So Maisila, fine. So Imkin Rav Chal Azar, we're going to have too much room in the Azar. How come? Tetznam, that we learned in the Mishnah also in Masechta Midos. I'm learning Masechta Midos now, but I haven't gotten there yet. Kol Azar Aisa Orech 187. The length, as you can see at the top, the length of the Azara was 187 amas. Al Rochav 135, and you can see at the end there on the left, it's a width of 135. Mimizrach l'mayav 187, and from east to west is 187. Now, Makom Drisas Ragle Yisrael Achas Esrei Amas. So when you come into the Azara from the right, or from all the way on the right, you come in. So there is the Israelites' courtyard, and that was 11 amas. Umakom Drisas Ragle Kanim Achas Esrei Ama, and then you get to the Ezras Kohanim, the Kohanim courtyard, another 11 amas. So we're at 22 amas. HaMizbeach Shloshim V'Shtayim, and the Mizbeach is another 32 amas. Ben Ulam v'Mizbeach Esem V'Shtayim Ama, in between the Mizbeach and the Ulam was another 22 amas. HaHeichol Mea Ama, the whole Heichol, the Ulam, the Heichol, all of it together was 100 amas. Achas Esrei Ama Achorei Beis HaKaporos, and behind the Heichol was another 11 amas. So you have 11 and 11 is 22, plus another 32 is 54, plus another 22 is 76, plus 100 is 176, and another 11 is 187. The thing is, if we're saying that milichatchila, the 32 amas were not 32 6 tefach amas, it was only 26 6 tefach amas. The last six amas were 5 tefach amas, which means that for each amma you're losing a tefach. So you have 6 tefachs, which is a full amma. So the mizbeach ends up not being 32 amas from like regular amas, 6 tefach amas. It's actually just really 31 amas, which kind of means that then the calculations are off, because we were assuming then I guess something else is going to have to be bigger, or whatever. We're assuming that the Mizbeach is 32, but the fact of the matter is it's actually only 31, and we're going to have to account for that somewhere, but the Mishnah doesn't account for that. So the Mishnah is assuming that it's 32, so it can't be that 6 of the amas are 5 tefach amas, because that would mess with this math. So Ella, rather, Chek ha'ama, when it comes to the Yesod, Bigova. Okay, so the Yesod, we're talking about the height. So the Yesod was so going back to this slide here with the Mizbeach. So the Yesod, which was 1 amma tall, that's a 5 tefach amma. Rochav Knisa Gvula El Svasa Saviv Bigova. No, I'm sorry. Wait, 1 second. Where am I? Elacheka amma Bigova. Amma Rochav Knisa. I skipped. Okay, so Elacheka amma Bigova. So the Yesod, the height of the Yesod is 1 amma, that's a 5 tefach amma. Amma Rochav Knisa. When it comes to the Sovev though, the Sovev was 5 regular 6 tefach ammas, but when you went in, there it only went in by a 5 tefach amma. So far we've lost 1 tefach on the height, and 1 tefach on the height, and 2 tefachs on the width. Now Gvula al Svasa Saviv, and then when it comes to the Kronos, the horns, what does it say? Gova? What does it say? Gova. Okay, so that's also talking about the height. Okay, so that means that we lose one tefach on the height of the yesod and one tefach on the height of the kranos. Okay, so we've lost 2 tefachim. Losh nachi, in terms of the width of the kranos, it doesn't really matter if the width are a 5 tefach amma or a 6 tefach amma, because either way, since the only width that we're messing with is from the sovev, so we lose 2 tefachim. So whether the kranos are 6 tefach ammas or 5 tefach ammas, even if 5 tefach ammas, so we only have 4, we lose 4 tefachim, which is less than an amma, we're not super concerned about it. So what have we said so far definitively? We've said that the height of the yesod is a 5 tefach amma. The height of the horn, the keren, is also 5 tefach amma. So we lose 2 tefachim on the height. And in terms of the sovev, that's talking about the width. So we lose 2 tefachim on the width. Okay, so sachakol, we lose 2 tefachim on the height and 2 tefachim on the width. So Mizbeach kama. So now what's the height of the Mizbeach? Chamshim v'tmanya. 58. Right? We said, right, when we're talking about 6 tefach, right? So, well, basically we have 8 6 tefach. No, it's harder to do it that way. Basically, if you have you have 10, the Mizbeach is 10 amas tall. If they would all be 6 tefach amas, that would be 60 tall. But because 2 of them are only 5 tefach tall, so it's 58. Okay, great. So Mizbeach kama 58 tefachim tall. Palgei the Mizbeach kama. So what's the halfway mark? Where's the chut hasikra? 29. Esrim v'tisha, at the 29 tefach mark. Now, mikranos v'ad sovev kama, from the kranos until the sovev. So basically, from the top of the sovev to the top of the mizbeach is 4 amas. So 4 times 6 is 24. But we said that the horn was only a 5 tefach amas, so minus 1. So 6 times 4 is 24. Minus 1 is 23. So from the very top of the mizbeach to the yesod, from the very top of the mizbeach to the sovev, where the kohen would be standing for the olas ha'of, is 23 tefachim. And we said that where is the chut hasikra? 29 tefachim. So there's a difference of 6 tefachim, which is a full amma, and therefore you can kneel down and press the decapitated bird against the wall, even up to an amma, and still be above the chut hasikra. So kama bater lefalged the mizbeach. The difference between 23 and 29 is shisa is 6 v'tanan, and we learn in the Mishnah in masar lamata miraglav afilu amma achas kshera. And therefore it works out fine with that requirement that the kohen be able to kneel down and press the bird against the wall, even an amma below where he's standing. The math works out just fine. Daikanami, and also infer that daikanami, you can also say that this is inferred that the yesod goes up by 5 tefachim and the sovev goes in by 5 tefachim. The chsev, as the Pasuk says, cheko amma ve'ama rochav. Shma mina. That I think the point is that there's a different law. There's the cheko amma and there's the amma rochav. So we mentioned the rochav, the width, as opposed to we have the cheko amma, the rochav amma, the different lashonos to say that they're different things. That the yesod is going up, is the height is 5 tefachim, whereas the sovev is going in 5 tefachim. Sheesh. Wow. Oh, it only took an hour. Hopefully I should be able to get this edited with all the slides and everything before Shabbos. Candlelighting's in an hour and a half. I got a lot to do before then. Also, it takes a while to compile when there's a lot of slides. Okay, friends, how did that work out? How did I do? Was I able to explain that clearly enough? I certainly hope so. Sheesh. So B'esem, we learned that the first section of the daf, we learned about the snifin and the kanim, those kind of the panels or whatever on the side of the shulchan, and the reeds, and we said that the reeds are not going to be docha Shabbos, since you can go in and remove them before Shabbos and put them back after Shabbos, and nothing will get moldy, so that is a-okay. And then we talked about the 5 tefach amma, the 6 tefach amma, and we talked about the pasuk in Yechezkel where there were certain elements of the mizbeach hachitzon had 5 tefach amas, while the rest of the elements had 6 tefach amas, and we did detective work to figure out that it is, well, we know that it was related to the yesod, the soviv, and the keren. We didn't know in what ways, and we did detective work to determine that the yesod goes up by 5 tefachim, the soviv goes in by 5 tefachim, and the keren goes up by 5 tefachim. Friends, that was Daf Tzadi Zayin. Daf 97 of Masechta Zvachim. Nope. Masechta Menachos. Chodesh Tov. Peace out. Cheers.